Greetings, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. And those who just are viewing us right now, we'll be back with you in a few minutes. Just put the music, the introduction music, and then from there we start. Thank you.
Geo E Records.
Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 yeah. Banana kala. Na 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 na. Anina wahi. Anina sawa. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Na sawa. Anina Equatoria. Beled wahid, anina Equatoria. Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah. Kanita miniambio, kanita mintori, weleta min juba, yeah. Anina Equatoria. Keresia sama gesi manina. Yeah. We strong, we stand together. Yeah. Kanihna gulu wahi, Equatoria biraba. Yabiru pijama, asan belet na biraba. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah. Give us ibanagule. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Nasawa, anina Equatoria. Beled wahid, anina Equatoria. Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah. Kanita zande, kanita mai, au kukuye. Anina Equatoria. Kelene na hibo nefusina, kebelia kedema periganina. Salam wa sakhafa bihaja derino hasan belet na biraba arif ma bisaido. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah. Give us ipanabule. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Nasawa, anina Equatoria. Beled wahid, anina Equatoria. Anina Equatoria.
Nihna kulu sawa jama. So my panan ngala. I love my people and I'm the voice.
Ajoli ya buga ya baka.
Great
Equatoria balanda bari. Kakuwa kiliku. Lango lungoya.
Ajoli
Kosa mundo. Nyambara morove made. Mundare.
Nyambara.
Otumo pare makotudo. Lubara buga ya lobe.
Kosa mundo.
Nare.
Anina kulu nasi sawa. Mavi hata bigesi manena. Siasa ma bigesi manena. Anina wahi.
Well, thank you again for those who have joined us. First of all, I want to say good evening to you from the United States, in eastern states, from the eastern states of US, and those from West, I know it's afternoon. And also good evening to those who are in other countries who are still nighttime. Good morning for those who are still waking up in Asian countries, Australia. Thank you for joining us, those who are here. My name is Ethic Odysseus, and I really wanted to say thank you, guys, for everyone who are here today. We're going to continue part 2 on the special report, as we have mentioned, on the conflict and crisis in South Sudan's Equatoria, Thursday, July 1st, 2021, episode 1, part 2 of episode 1, the special report on conflict and crisis in South Sudan, Equatoria. In Arabic is تقرير خاص والصراع والأزمة في جنوب السودان في الاستوائية الكبرى الخميس يوليو 2021 الحلقة 1 الجزء الثاني من الحلقة الأولى من تقرير الخاص الصراع والأزمة في جنوب السودان في استواء الكبرى. I want to say thank you all for those who joined us, and also I wanted to welcome Brother Hakim, Dario, CJ, Hadassah, and also we know there's another member who will be here soon. To start first, we say greetings to all our beloved friends and members, audiences, and especially our gracious Greater Equatorian family, and not to forget also our confused and troubled foes who cannot fathom Greater Equatoria call for sovereignty. All in all, it shall be built, of course, not through the hands of and might of warlords and tribal anarchists or any greed for power, but it shall be through a genuine and righteous idea of well-built utopian nation. And I believe our desired nation of Great Equatoria shall be a nation that shall trust not in any forms of tribal anarchy, but in the form of law and order, which shall be supported by the unbreakable golden rods of true freedom and equality for all. Our beloved Great Equatorian family, Equatorial Civil Council in Diaspora, and EPA would like to take this moment to salute and reflect with pride and honor to all our fellow Great Equatorian Revolutionary brothers and sisters, home and abroad. We salute you in the name of justice, accountability, and equal rights. We salute you in the name of Great Equatorian nationalism. We salute you in the name of Great Equatoria unity, a true unity of our people struggle. And we salute you all in the name of hope and a brighter future for our suffering people. And we also salute you in the spirit and true genuine love and bond that ties us all together with one another as Great Equatorian. We must always remember the sacred bond we share with each other as Great Equatorian people. The Great Equatorial unity is not solely focused on a baseless slogan of unfounded and fragile unity. The Great Equatorial unity must be noted. It wasn't born out of political or geographical necessities. Our passion for each other to lift up and protect each other, it was that what made us as Great Equatorian. But now, under these chaotic times that we are in, those are the wise among us see the essential need for our unity, an essential need to be one people. Or what have made us as Great Equatoria is neither region nor piece of land, but is the immortal idea and this mortal spirit that was left to us by our immortal ancestors. If any foreigner think they can just define Great Equatoria as a region of many inhabitants or tribe alone, we believe they have done us injustice. Great Equatoria is who we are. We are more than just a tribe. The pure connection that ties us, we as Equatorian, that ties us together as a community is because the spiritual bond which we share deeply and is rooted through our ancestral blood that is flowing through our veins. We all share this truth, that binds us as Equatorian people. Thus, the Great Equatorians are not just native inhabitants of the Great Equatorial region. Still, we prove to all our foes that we are one people, one power against many aggressive adversaries, be it foreign or domestic, who seek our disintegration and disunity. Our fellow Great Equatorian and non-Equatorian, we want to take this great opportunity to thank you all for taking your personal time to watch us and join us in this discussion and analysis, especially on the report. And sometime, in this forum also we give speech, but today we're going to continue part 2 of the report by Alan Boswell on the Equatorial conflict crisis, because this thing supports what we're saying all the time about Equatoria needed to rise up, and this is the time for us to rise up. Thank you, and I'll give chance to our brother CJ, if you don't mind, to go and continue, and then from there we give Hadassah and brother Hakim to continue. Go ahead. You guys hear me right, huh? Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I don't know. CJ, he need to connect his.
Can we let Hakim go first, CJ?
Okay. Yeah, let's welcome Hakim then, because CJ is still having trouble with his connection. But go ahead, brother Hakim, if you don't mind. Yeah, go ahead. You can give your a little bit introduction, and then from there we'll go to CJ and then Hadassah. Thank you.
Once more, I want to take the opportunity to greet the viewers of Free Equatoria Forum and our fellow Equatorians globally, across the diaspora and back in in Juba, in Equatoria, in the whole of South Sudan. I really take a great, privilege. I consider this great privilege to talk to you and to share my thoughts and ideas, and of course, reviews of the special report on Equatoria, because this is a report about us, Equatorians, and therefore it's only opportune and in order that we kind of like bring our views to the table and share among ourselves how we take this report on. So I want to thank the host as well, my colleagues here in the panel. So we want to make this as lively as much as we can, but also as an informed discussion that would benefit the viewers. And so if I go back again to our comments yesterday, I think just to recap the special report, the report on Equatoria was highlighting, among other things, one is that Equatoria is the weakest link. It's the weakest link regionally, among the three regions of South Sudan. We are the weakest link as Equatorians. That we do not possess political unity, that we are politically disunited, to use the words of the report, that we Equatorians are politically disunited, and that we do not have a clear leadership, not necessarily in terms of a person. Leadership is not a person, but leadership is about ideas, about a group and teamwork that leads on something that promotes the interests of Equatoria. But some people will interpret that as being, a leader means Waniga, a leader means Martin Elielo Moro, or a leader means Thomas Cirillo, and so on. To some extent, you could say these are people who have, or individuals who are playing in the political arena, and they have groups organized behind them, but they also need to have a blueprint in their hands. They need to have an agenda that is pursuing a particular interest, and I think it is the absence of that, strong leadership on issues, on advocating for the interests of the people of Equatoria, and that we Equatorians, we share a sense of marginalization, a sense of being politically marginalized, and that there is this perception collectively among ourselves that we Equatorians are marginalized, and that this centralized state in South Sudan today is not really promoting the interests of Equatoria. On the contrary, this centralized state is marginalizing Equatoria. And there are many Equatorians who feel, let down by the state, by this Dinka-dominated state, which is a hegemonic state, and that their interests are not, promoted in this state. So they have demands. They have demands which range from federalism to devolution of power in a confederacy of states in South Sudan, for example, that the call for confederation in South Sudan is a growing and is a popular growing demand in Equatoria now. It's because simply there has been marginalization. There's no attention given to federalism, and there are many reasons behind that. But that more and more Equatorians now identify with confederation of the three states of South Sudan, the three regions of South Sudan, as a shared sovereignty, in a shared sovereignty model. A shared sovereignty model means that we're all sovereign and we share power, and each region would control itself and only share as much, in a common pot at the national level. The degree, for example, varies. Like you may have, as Equatorial region, you could have 80% of power locally, and you just share 20%, coordinate other issues of common interest. Or in this regard as well, if that doesn't seem to work or is not really promising to deliver the vested interests of the people of Equatoria, then Equatorians are entitled to self-determination and determine whether they want to live in a confederacy or whether they want to actually become an independent state. So these are progressive developments, and these developments have started, as much as early in the start of the civil conflict, or the what's called described by outsiders as the civil war in South Sudan from 2015 onwards, and if you look at what happened in 2015 after the outbreak of conflict in South Sudan between the major, stakeholders and hegemonic, stakeholders in the SPLM, the Nuer and the Dinka. The tribe, the conflict was took a tribal dimension, took a tribal, direction, and therefore. What seems to matter, that's what the conflict betrays. The conflict betrays the fact that we are still a tribal society, and therefore those who dominate power in South Sudan are in a sense that tribal hegemonists. They are hegemonic groups. They promote their tribal agenda because very quickly, instead of the conflict being addressed as a political, conflict that could be addressed through SPLM's own internal institutions, it broke out of that and became a tribal conflict between the Dinka and the Nuer over power. And so this is even supported by the evidence that in 2015, for example, when the Axis was signed, the Agreement for Resolution of Conflict in South Sudan was signed, and it failed later. It was a power sharing agreement between SPLM groups. And so it was giving power to Salva Kiir and power to Riek Machar. So it was a power sharing between Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. And Riek Machar had a tribal backing, and Salva Kiir had a tribal backing. So that is what it turned out. And so the agreement failed, and the conflict intensified. This time the conflict moved to Equatoria. And as a result of the conflict moving to Equatoria in 2016, for example, when Salva Kiir and the army, the ex-chief of the army, Paul Molong, organized and recruited Dinka militia known as Mathianganyoro. When the Mathianganyoro were recruited and sent into Equatoria to punish the communities in Equatoria, to punish them for showing support and sympathy to Riek Machar. And because Equatorians were now warming up to the idea of supporting change, and so they were being punished, and as a result, many Equatorians, now approaching 1.8 million Equatorians, sent into refuge. What happened, and this is also attested to by the international media, and in this report, that Equatorians were being depopulated from their own homes in Equatoria, in central Equatoria largely, and also in western Equatoria and eastern Equatoria. And that this has resulted in the largest exodus of refugees in Africa since the Rwandan War in 1994. So we have made history as Equatorians. We become the largest population of refugees in Africa. And that means our country, Equatoria, is depopulated. And I think this is what the report is saying in many parts. There are many, many other issues as well that report is talking about. But that just is, maybe will give you some sense of proportion as to how, what remains in Equatoria today. Equatoria has become a conflict zone, and our women our children, our brothers and sisters are being, murdered, as you have seen recently in Lanya, when a clergy and a 10-year-old were murdered and killed in cold blood when they were attending a service, and they were arrested and murdered with impunity. There's no, there's no remorse on the part of the government, the so-called government, because the government is a Dinka government, and it is also a failed state, which is there to persecute the Equatorians. So these are the realities on the ground, and these are some of the, accounts of this report by Alan Boswell. And I think we should look at this report, understand it, consider its implications, and what it means for you as Equatorians. So I think without much sort of like skirting around the issue, the challenge is now for you as Equatorians. Do you consider this report to be genuine and authentic? Does it express and represent what you're going through as Equatorians? And if you do, then what do you do about what can you do effectively to address and mitigate the long-term consequences of the current situation in Equatoria? Where do we go from here? So those are some of the implications of what is highlighted in the report, that Equatoria doesn't have a strong, united political leadership. It even goes as far as saying even Equatorian elites themselves have failed to build a coalition among themselves to be successful in putting a unified demand to support the interests of the people of Equatoria. So those are some of the issues raised in the report, and it's a very grim report if you read through it. Just you take time, not to hurry. If your time allows, sometimes just go back and read the report, look at the findings, and these findings is the result of a research that was undertaken for for a substantive amount of time and across many areas in Equatoria, including the diaspora, including a number of places that were mentioned in the report. And so it comes on, it doesn't make just claims. The report is supported by evidence of interviews, data, and they say since the onset of the conflict in Equatoria in 2016, the devastating effects of this conflict could actually even be seen from space, right? And Alan Boswell is not making these, assertions lightly. That the conflict that has raged in Equatoria could be seen from space monitoring stations, from the stage, space-based monitoring systems. So maybe that would perhaps imply to you and to me and to everybody else in Equatoria that we are being watched. There are we're being being monitored, and it's only positive that the outside world should take an interest in what's going on in Equatoria. It gives voice to ourselves. It gives voice to many Equatorians who have not followed developments in the country, and hopefully that would start to sink in, and we can start to do something about it. So I hope I have not exceeded my 10 minutes allocation. So I think I'll yield it here for our next guest in the panel, and I'll come back later. So I want to thank you again for the opportunity to share with you these moments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brother Hakeem. Anyway, we're gonna start. We will start to open, but I'll give CJ to talk. CJ, if you don't mind, connect your camera. I don't know what happened. Please get in and
I was just
hello.
wondering, we do a short introduction and then from there I'll start timing when we get into the subject, or let me just start straight away.
Yeah, because I was supposed to time, but it's okay, no problem. All I want now is like let's focus on CJ. You have anything to say right now? Oh, so many points you want to remark? Because I think Brother Hakim have already expanded some points there, very important. But if you don't mind, just connect your network or your voice so we can hear you.
If he's
You
not
need to
ready,
connect your.
then if
No,
he's not ready,
his mic. Yeah, I wanted him. Your mic. Okay, he exited. Something wrong. So, Didi, please go ahead. And also wanted to welcome our sister here, Diketi Mello, for joining us. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Didi, if you don't mind. Just put your few introduction, or just let's go direct if you want to also to the topic.
I'll just introduce, put a
Yes, yeah,
little
sorry.
introduction. Yeah. Just my greetings to you all, everybody in the studio, and Dr. Hakim, CJ, Dikacho Melo, and Etika. Thank you guys, and thank you everybody that comes here attending the show and to be participating. We're here returning back to the report, as we said, is a series of this report that has been put out by journalists, by this journalist. This report is really like it's really like an eye opener that is like speaking really deeper in our matters, the matters of Equatoria that we are focusing on, and for us to see where we fall and how we can scale our situation right now, since we have been viewed right now as an outsider, like we are part of South Sudan, but at the same time, like things that are going on, we're not allowed to participate in it. We're not allowed to have a say or to even to represent ourselves, and we fall short as a victim in all these things that are happening. So without further ado, getting into it, I will Hadassah, and I'll let the next person do the introduction, and we can get into it from here.
All right.
Hello.
Yes, CJ, you have an issues with your network. Please, I hope this one it works. Go ahead. Itfaddal. Go ahead. We're listening to you.
All the time.
Okay, then let me give Dikatamela to introduce herself, and then from there, whatever the technical issues,
Okay.
you fix it. Go ahead, Dikatamela. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, greetings to all my Equatorian family, and I hope everyone is doing great. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to come and join you guys in the discussion of the report. And I thank everyone that is in the panel, and I hope when we go through the report, we will learn a lot in the process. I know past is past, but at least we learn from our past to know where we are heading. So Equatorians, when we bring good ideas, it becomes a great ideas. And when we let it out, it shines and it opens our minds for us to think of our destiny and our goal as Equatorians. Indeed, this report is amazing. It is something that we didn't expect that someone from outside can write things that we Equatorians sometimes we get scared of like speaking it out. So we tend to admit that this is our fate. Maybe God will bring us out of the mess we are in one day. So as we're going to stand together as Equatorians, it might be a bit challenging for us. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone somewhere within our region, Equatoria. So the points that our brother Dr. Hakim spoke, it really enlightened even my mind. I've gone through the report, but I didn't understand it the way he's putting it for us. And still we will go through more points that will make us also come with a point that at the end of the day, we Equatorians need to make ourselves stronger through coming together, uniting for one goal, that is our destiny. So we have to come together to fight for our destiny, because if we don't take it serious, our identity will just go away. The way we are seeing in front of our eyes is getting out, and then we will see even our history will be in a mess, because right now, even if we go back to the history, things have been changed in the history that our kids in Equatoria are learning in our today's life. So let's just stand together. I don't have much to say. I'll get in with the points that I have written from the reports, but later. So I'll just leave it here. Someone to pick up from there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Dictator Mello. Just, I don't know if CJ, you're ready. Please
Okay.
tell me.
Yeah,
You
I'm
go
sure.
ahead.
I'm ready, John.
Yeah.
Thank
Go ahead. Yeah.
you. Yeah, like, shukran, thank you very much, John. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, our viewers and guests, guests who have just joined us. It's a great moment, actually, one more time, to come to this episode, to continue it. As we have promised, this is a day that we have to talk throughout this report. As every one of us knows, of course, it's all about, what took place yesterday was actually, the first probably page to the second, to the third, to the fifth. So it's all about the situation home, of course, the report. And the guy, Alan, so I'm really proud, when I went through all this report one more time, this gentleman isn't easy, he was somebody who did work hard to get this report. He has been all over the refugee camps and all that. He has got more references, which are concrete, actually. It goes back to the year before the independence even. Of course, he was one who attended the ceremony of the independence ceremony. He was there by the time, according to what he has indicated. Yeah, indeed, we fully agree with what he has brought up. Yet it's lead us to more many questions as Equatorians. One of the most serious ones is that the conflict of Equatoria after the independence might have started in 2014, by the time when all the Equatorians gathered together. And then there was a conflict of this Dinka and Nuer fight, with its ethnic in its nature, as well as politically, it looks like a political as well, a power struggle. It's unfortunate. Based on what I've gone through these reports, there's some critical issues down the road down there. One of them is that Equatoria was trying to get into the, IGAD was involved, of course, after the war. As every one of us knows, IGAD was involved in that particular negotiations. It's unfortunate Equatoria was kicked out. So that was a setback by the time. That led Equatorians to think twice whether or not they have to look to hold guns and fight back so that they can be recognized, or else. Remember that also, Alan did point out that Equatoria was actually, as well, the demand of Equatoria seems to be almost put down. Why? It's because, some of them used to say that Equatoria didn't fight enough, or it means, they were not one of the groups who fought in a similar way like Dinka and Nuer. So Equatoria positions, positions were almost discredited. So this was one of the worst conflicts. Now, in these particular points, there are some kind of critical issues. One of them is that, I wonder if indeed, as Equatorians, by the time when these conflicts happened, do we think IGAD, because the rejections was from the government accordingly, that's what they say. I'm totally confused whether the government by the time is under Dinka or it's a complex of Dinka and Nuer and the Equatorians. Because according to the report, the report says that they reject Equatorians, delegations to come in and join that negotiation deal. And then IGAD went on to sum it up into a share power, a power sharing, which is actually, though, not the exact point. Because by then, this war of Dinka and Nuer, every one of us as Equatorians and probably worldwide knows that there was a conflict during the wartime, the liberation movement time. There was a conflict between Dinka and Nuer. Equatoria did manage to settle it. It's unfortunate. Now, when they came there, they put it as if it is a power sharing issue, something that was not clear. I wonder if IGAD or Equatorian, the Equatorians who were there, did they give a notice to the IGADs that there is a problem? This war is not all about power sharing, but rather something else. So this is one of the issues. And how comes that Equatorian, by the time, get in there, trying to get a seat in that complex that was supposed to be defined as a complex, as an ethnic complex between those two tribes, where they've been hunting before. Of course, they have been hunting each other. Not until later, when Equatoria was looks like some of the Equatorians were so frustrated, then they went on joining the IO. So, of course, according to the report also as well, that they failed to get to form the third party, because by the time, if somebody were to say that, oh, okay, you have no place here, then people are supposed to take a position. It's unfortunate. Equatoria went on and scattered themselves among the two, which is indeed a conflict. Now, systematically, as things goes, this result into people like Malum coming up, start hunting the Equatorians, trying to destroy, instead of aiming. Because then, they say there were some other people who were prepared, to take a revolt, to go to revolt against the regimes. So there's some kind of confusion here. Equatoria need to understand that. Unless we know the truth, which Alan have already pointed out. Because for me, there were two elements that we know. Something that we know that, because there was this call for decentralization. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Continue. We hear you.
Sorry.
Just go ahead.
I got something to pop out in my screen, yeah.
Don't worry about it. Just go ahead.
Good.
Make sure timing, please. Yeah.
Thank you. So we are really confused as Equatorians here. There is something wrong that, some of our elites did play, those who were by the time. Of course, the formation of a government in the earlier days was, to some extent, it shows something that is reasonable. Equatorians were there, represented and all that. But later on in time, after the war of 2013, which for me, I consider it as a coup, because Kiir went on to the video, to the TV, and started claiming that there is a coup. Remember that? While it was the opposite of that, of course. So today we can see Dinka are holding all the government positions, from top to bottom. That is what we should answer as Equatorians. We're supposed to know to come to a realization that this is not what is the present. It's not a regimes. I mean, it's not a government, but rather it's a coup, because that is how things were going during the African independence, the former African countries' independence. Mostly, you see those who hold guns to fight for the liberations, later taking over the governments, try to impose themselves as self-government, all right, as one party system. So exactly what is going on in the country is similarly to that one. So I will end up here. I'll yell back to you.
All right. Thank you. Hadassah, please make sure you time me. I just wanted to highlight some points here, and then from there, I'll give so we can be timed on this. So now we start timing it.
The timing is not now or after you highlight?
No, time it. No, time it now. I mean, I'm just start with me timing it. Don't worry, because now we are made in 41 minutes. But time it. I'll take less. What's that?
How many minutes you want me to time?
Time 7 minutes.
Okay.
That'll be better. Because we start with introduction and we kind of went a little bit far, but it's not a problem. So yeah, my highlight here, and if anybody who speaks Arabic, we will try to help out in also speaking in Arabic. But there is something very important. He said, like what you mentioned, CJ, just to add on that, and also Brother Hakeem mentioned earlier. The outsiders, what he said in his report, Mr. Alan Boswell, have put in a report that the outsiders tend to underweigh the gravity of the internal division in South Sudan. And that's the most important, line that we have to take it serious when you read that report. But what he means that the international community, because when we talk about ICAD, we talk about even Troika, we talk about all these other international communities, they failed to, recognize and also make a diagnose the situation carefully before they just jump in to end the situation through a peaceful solution. I wish it was a peaceful solution. It was actually what we call it power sharing solution. So they did not look at it in a way of that those guys, they have something they have violated. And I'm sorry, I have somebody calling me. I just have to kind of mute a little bit. Yeah, so they did not, I will call you back, Brother Aiko. Just give me a minute. But yeah, so they did not focus on looking at on the issue carefully. Going into the topic, going into the point of that this conflict, when it started, as we all know, it started 2013. But before that, these things had already been going on. But the international community during the peace agreement in 2005, and that's what I'm going to define the descent to war. Before the 2005 comprehensive peace agreement with Khartoum and the SPLM rebel, the conflict that already been known, it's already been said that it's the political dispute, have shaped the conflict. Hold on, sorry, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. The conflict is not new for Equatoria. The conflict that is going on in South Sudan, or these two tribes in that two region, specifically in Bahr al-Ghazal and Upper Nile, it is not a new conflict. They've been always fighting each other. And it started, by he even gave a detail on 1970s after they gave her the self-rule. And then from there, we went up to the, Equatorial, when they saw that the Dinka tribe begin to disrespect the tribes of Equatoria by becoming, they wanted to dominate without rights, coming to people territory and claiming as if they are part of this. They were just attacking and doing them unlawful things. So, that would push the Equatorian to call for what? For, decentralization, and later then was interpreted into our tribal language, or the Equatorian language is called Kokora, and other names they have for it. So these things was the beginning of what Equatoria were noticing that there is something wrong, but we ignored it when we begin to see the bigger enemy. The enemy that we were watching is just the northern Arabs, the Arab North, those who used to try to create this marginalization of the Southern Sudanese African original, the original of this country. They were trying to tell us that we are slaves and they are masters, and even they used religion in it to play, Islam against Christian, and then also they made a lot of chaos. But what happened, Equatorial at that time, aware of this, so Equatoria was focused on that area more than worrying or putting their worries on that Dinka one day will come up to be a problem in the country. And this is not anti-Dinka when we talk about Dinka, because this is exactly what happened. The regime is owned and controlled by the Dinka tribe. The SPLA was created by the leader who was from Dinka during the 1983 after the Kokora. He came up and declared that he's an SPLM. And the first people he turned the weapon to against, it was the South Sudanese people, in particular Equatorians, especially in the area of Mundari and all these other areas. He went to east and west, even when there was so many chaos happening. And then the Nuer and Dinka escalation started there too, even though they have a historical conflict with each other since the ancient time, tribal conflict, that they never resolved it. So when they began to get into politics, that's when they really began to use their influence to gather their tribes to fight each other, whoever dominate, take over. So once 2005 came up, and then now Equatorian are only just like the tail, not even equal in the table. They were the tail, because if you see even the leaders that was there, he even put some remarks that said there was a lot of Equatorian leaders who could play the role, but they failed. And those leaders were all in the SPLM at that time. And when the conflict of SPLM and IO, which is before it was IO, when the Dinka killed the Nuer 2013, and Nuer then formed their political organization, SPLM in opposition, that's when Equatorian, irrationally, some of those Equatorian who were not satisfied with the regime and with the abuse that the SPLM and the Dinka tribe were doing, they began to switch their, to work with Riek. And Riek also promised them falsely that he's going to provide this federalism. Please make sure if I'm going far, Hadassah, my timing, so you make sure. Yeah, so that's when he went to the extreme.
5 minutes, 1 minute still to go.
All right. So in brief, I would just say this: what the conflict have caused, it brought Equatoria to its downfall. Equatoria could have been able to stand up stronger if the Equatorian leaders would have took the decision to not follow any of those who have a tribal, tribal intention within their political, movement. Because if you look at the SPLM-IO, was not created because of they have a disagreement with the regime. It's just a retaliation because of what the Dinka did to the Nuer. And the Dinka, SPLM, it represents Dinka, as we always say, because SPLM from the beginning, it has a monopoly to play in that politics during the One Sudan. And then they gained another chance when they became in power. Today, they are the dominant, and they are creating this Dinka hegemony, as we always say, to control. So I will leave it here, and I'll give it to the next person to talk. But this is just my addition and input, and hopefully it's clear. Thank you.
Yeah. Who's next? Do we go back?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go to Hakim, and yes, go, brother Hakim. Your turn. So I'm just giving my point here in the descent to war, and I started from the first one when it's the introduction to the conflict. Go ahead. اتفضل.
Sorry, right, okay. Well, thanks very much again, our viewers, the audience. I greet you once more with great pleasure to be sharing my views with you here today. Yeah, I just wanted to maybe take a few points on both. One is, which is highlighted in the report, is that the struggle in Equatoria is not a power struggle for the center. I think this is, just to repeat it again, that the struggle in Equatoria is not a struggle for power in the center. Like, it's not like a power struggle for the center, right? And this basically also says that the the struggle is really about Equatorians having a devolved system of governance, and the extent to which would minimally be a federation. And this may have already been superseded to that of confederation. Even that, in the process of self-determination, the majority of Equatorians may also decide to have a state of their own, because it is these are degrees of shared sovereignty. Strong federation is a representation of shared sovereignty. A confederation is also a further degree of shared sovereignty. And then, of course, independence becomes a necessity when the people of Equatoria consider and regard themselves as having no remedy to the exercise of political power in the current South Sudan, that they are without political power. They cannot even protect their own rights. They are depopulated from their areas. They are the subject of atrocities and commission of war crimes against their people, including genocide and so on. These extreme circumstances would become the basis on which the people of Equatoria have got a right to demand for a statehood, to have their own state. So these are the degrees of sovereignty, the equivalent of shared sovereignty in the form of federation, in the form of confederation, and in the form of having your own sovereignty without with being an independent state. So that's one key aspect which is highlighted in this report, and this some people might always talk about autonomy. Some people talk about regional governance or regional autonomy, and so on. But as you can see, these, if you look at the history, the Kokora and so on, Equatorians wanted to avoid being dominated by ethno-political, hegemonic groups, and that's why. And it's a fair and legitimate demand on the part of any group of people that want to exercise and enjoy self-governance, because if you are free, nobody should fear another for wanting to exercise that right or wanting to exercise political power. So I think it's very, very important to highlight this point, and to for Equatorians to look at this as a legitimate a process of exercising and enjoying your rights as a people and as citizens, but citizens who are not free to exercise those rights, deprived of these rights by the Jain Council of Elders State, by the Dinka State, by perhaps Dinka nationalism that wants to continue to dominate power in the country, because they feel a sense of entitlement that they were the only one who largely contributed to the separation of South Sudan or the independence of the country, which is not the case, which is not true. It's a cumulative process. Then the report also talks about, for example, in terms of the conflict which is occurring in Equatoria, that one option would be, for example, to seek a negotiated settlement that is situated within the transitional period. But the transitional period is almost over now, and so this does not admit a solution for the issues, the conflict in Equatoria would not admit a solution in a negotiated settlement during the transitional period, because we've seen that those who are in charge of the transitional period have not implemented the provisions and benchmarks of the transitional the revitalized agreement. So they do not, and they are struggling to have legitimacy. So how would that negotiated settlement be reached, and with an authority that doesn't have legitimacy. So those are some of the issues that the report brings out. Another point is, of course, persistent one, which is that of the shared sovereignty. The idea and concept of shared sovereignty, as Equatorians look at it, is one of not refusing or rejecting the interests of other people to also have the same. For example, when Equatorians talk about shared sovereignty at the national level, it's a legitimate and fair demand. And it's also in terms of like saying, okay, these South Sudanese communities or constituencies rather should enjoy the same level of shared sovereignty. What's wrong, for example, with Upper Nile having shared sovereignty of the people of Upper Nile with the rest of the country? And so it goes for Bahr al-Ghazal. Why do they refuse to share sovereignty? I mean, it just strikes you as being very strange that if you divide a cake into three, and each person has the same amount, so why would you want to reject that? Yeah, so I will leave that comment for you guys to think over, and I'll stop here for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Brother Hakim. For analysis, you have put some important mark, and I would later try to add on it about that, on why you said why the two regions are not interested on that idea of sovereignty and all that. But I'll give this, I think, Hadassah or the Kertimelo, any one of you. I know, Hadassah, your timing, and I really appreciate it.
Under pressure here, I will leave the Kertimelo to go ahead, and then I review
All
my
right,
notes.
thank you. The Kertimelo, it's now yours. The platform is yours now. Go ahead.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you very much once again. Yeah, there's some points that I just picked from this report of Alan that really capture my mind. And I think let me just take it through the angle that I feel it will also give us some hints within the report. So what I came to know is that Equatorial elite, they, as the report said, they failed to turn and come together like in a grievance into a movement of one goal after all the atrocities that happened within the Equatoria. And then again, when the Dinka came to Equatoria, we could see like they really came with intention of domination and intimidation, and like something which they carry that they knew if they implemented it is like accomplishing part of their manifestos. So like there was some tense when they came to Equatorial and Central Equatoria especially, that people could see. Like now, let me talk of the generals that were with them in the bill farm, generals that are holding also their part as military with them. Yani they reach a point where they could not allow them even to stay like Equatorians alone. Like in case if they want even to meet or gather themselves together and talk something of home, you are not given that chance. Immediately they will find intimidation from the national security. They want to know, why did you guys meet? Why is this group meeting this group? What is going on? But if they are having their secret meeting with the Gen Council, nobody was following so closely or maybe putting it as a point, even though maybe Equatorians have it in their heart, like questioning themselves, why are the Dinka meeting with Gen Councils in a secret kind of way, which even they are not feeling like there is tension that might come later on. So they really knew how to handle Equatorians, I may say, sorry to say that, but they knew how to plan it. And then again, like now, let's say Dr. Hakim mentioned yesterday that when Martelio was having a party of something like Equatorian, I think, I don't know if I'm mentioning it right, Bona Manuel came and changed the agenda. But we could see from most of the Equatorians that is in Martin Elia political party, most of them felt like every direction of Martin Elia is coming from Bona Malwal direct. That's why in every position when if Salva will not miss Martin Elia from his, but before Martin Elia was not like in this level where he is right now. So like also some political parties is managed still with some elders of Gen Council that are having really bad intention to the Equatorians. This according to my own analysis. And then again, another thing, when they put their hand deeply in Equatorian taxes, you know, like Numule, border in Eastern Equatoria, then Adipal, and some taxes that are supposed to lift even the Equatoria state, since they are not allowing even our business guys from Equatoria to boom or like to do their work so that they can support in other ways. They still went ahead and tried to put their generals to control the taxes, reaching to the point that it is really so intimidating for Salva to put his nephew and then his son in the Central Equatoria mayorship, right in front of the Equatorian elites. So these people are managing not just any position within the mayorship, it's the finance. In every place where they're targeting finance so that it can cripple the Equatoria financially, you guys cannot do anything. So for other people to survive, like most of the Equatorians that are now powerful, that means you have to pay a lot, like a bribe, so that at least you don't get the intimidation. This is another part that they handle Equatoria to right in their neck, that they cannot even breathe. So now when we see it like that, it is something that people notice later. But our mistake sometimes, when we see danger coming to our place, we seem not to like pick it as a serious thing. We don't see it like a threat. So I don't know, is it our nature or something like that? But then when it happened now, then you'll find also people are not coming together. So right now, even we can say we have Equatorians that are in the government and they are supposed to be people who are powerful, but their powers are only used when the Dinka wants to use them against Equatoria. That's when you can see they're given that salahiyat. You see, they're not like deciding that why is this happening. I can give an example of Waniga and Ladugore. They're from the same clan, and they would have helped even people of Lobonok with their position in a way that even if they fear the government of Dinka, but they can help in another way, because at least they have that influence within the government. But you can see how they are crippled, that Dinka can do something and they will tend to like support them again. So this is another thing. But what I was just saying, okay, this is something already planned and it's already taking place. We can't do something about that. But then by today I was just going over some news, and then like I don't know, is it yesterday or the day before yesterday, where elders from Equatoria are going to like saying congratulations to Salva, like they are not against Salva, but they were just pleading for the cows to be taken out of Equatoria land, which they were given a reason that the cows are in Equatoria because in their place it is a bit muddy, and when they get stuck, the cows usually die very fast. But the question is, all these years before, let me say during the ruling of Bashir, and you know, when we are together with the North, we never used to see like these things happening. But why now? Yeah, if cows can die due to the flood, I think if it is a disaster, there are some solutions that organizations can do to help them. But then again, we came to see also some organization within Equatoria, they are working for their own benefit, but they're not seeing it in a way that if they could just bring Equatoria out, because if it is not the Equatorians, they wouldn't even get offices and places and work within the Equatoria. And I was just saying, I wish those days if Equatorians could say, okay, let's start from Ramshell like that as a capital. Let's build it with tents. Let's just persevere until we get that money and build that capital there, instead of like pushing the capital to Equatoria, so that the NGOs also, they can do their work. Because right now, even they're focusing on their salaries, which is maybe you can find, oh, sorry. Okay, I will leave it here. Thank you.
finish what you're saying?
Okay,
No,
yeah, like now.
finish what you're saying. Finalize.
Yeah, like now, one time when I used to be there, one time I was talking with another person and somebody was telling me that even the country directors, sometimes they were bribed by the government, the country directors of the organizations, sometimes the government bribed them. And then if my salary is like, let me say $60,000 per month, and then the government added for me, maybe let me say 200,000, just like giving you and then saying, because I hear also when a country doesn't like a country director, they have a right of saying, we don't need this person of maybe, let me say Oxfam or maybe UNICEF to stay here. The person has to get out. So they are also having fear for their position. When you get good money and you have extra money of living in a place which is dangerous, still you'll see your benefit in the first place. Yeah, because at the end of the day, those people who are working there, they're not our blood, they're not Equatorians, most of them. So they don't care. So it's something that we need to think as Equatorians. Yeah, I will leave it here. Thank you very much, Hadassah, for allowing me the seconds.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, Hadassah, what's your input if you wanted to say add? I know your timing. Thank you. I know it's a lot of work, but I appreciate you. You know, even if you just have something you remembered you wanna input, because it's a lot, but we wanted to kind of like go deep into it, delve into it, so we can, kind of like help our brothers and sisters to understand the report. What is it? What's in the report? So when they read it, they can understand exactly what we're trying to explain here. But go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. For me, I'll look at this report as this is obviously defining the stressful political highlight argument that have shaped the ongoing conflict that is happening, in our region in Equatoria, right under our nose, while we sit there sleeping and we sit there running from side to side, choosing who we want to support, who we want to join. But yeah, this is what is happening. If we look at this, all the this how this crisis has started, with let's say with the two parties that is happening, this tribal conflict that has happened, and if you look at it closely, they have rejected time and time to listen to Equatorians, what Equatorians want, and how they wanted, to govern the region, or how we wanted, to have rights whereby we can live, like, what people would say, like majority of people have been saying that, okay, we want, what do you call this thing? Sorry, I forgot the name. I'm very stressed. Sorry guys.
You good. Take your time. You mean that you wanted to examine the report? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm just examining what the report is saying here. Like they wanted federalism, whereby everybody will go and live in their regions, and everybody will govern their own region and stuff like that. But all this has been denied altogether, And what I could see here is just the report is highlighting that instead of Equatorians, could take this opportunity, to form a solid Equatorian movement, looking from, if we go to like the peace talk that has been done in Addis Ababa, whereby Equatorians have been denied, their proposal when they want to propose, their own opinions on how things should go. Equatorians have been denied access to that. I'm saying that from then, Equatorians should have come to their senses that this is really a moment that we should have consulted ourselves. Our leaders should have come back to us as Equatorians, and we sit down and consult the entire region of Equatoria, whereby we should have been creating our own Equatorian defense force, and as well as Equatorian political elite that will represent us as well, so that we can able to face this thing that is coming. Because like in the beginning, if you look at when the when the problem started, the fight started in 2013. Most of us, like most of our people, were like ignoring this problem as if this is just a two tribal conflict. You see, like it's just between the Dinka and the Nuer, not knowing that these people are dangerous. Not knowing that this could actually escalate into our region. Even though Juba has been the capital city and it's been governed by these two elites, these two tribes, yet we have ignored it time and time again. Then why are we surprised when this war has escalated into Equatoria? Because these people were governing from our own region, and the tribal war has started in their own regions over there. We should have known that this would have escalated in our region because we have these two barbaric leaders are living in our region, and then having their people making their exodus, moving into our regions. So we should have known that um, this this problem would start, you know, to escalate in Equatorial region. So whereby at this time, at that time, that very moment, we could have decided to create our own Equatorian Defense Force, as well as Equatorian Political Alliance that will represent us, will speak on our behalf. And if things are happening like this, then they will be voicing themselves. Voicing our concerns out to the international community and stuff like that. And whereby we should have been, we would have been respected and listened to, rather than we find ourselves, being used by the two tribes, whereby the Dinka regime and the Nuer rebels are just using us to join them. Either you fight with the Nuer, or either you fight with the Dinka. Equatorians only have these two options. Either you choose to be an Ayo, or you choose to be an SPLA. Whereby further later on, then comes on the new movement, which is the Salvation, the NAS, the Salvation movement, whereby most Equatorians have viewed that it's an opportunity that maybe if they had joined in, maybe this will really solve our problem, which is really has even further, created a lot of problems for us. Because if you look at it in this report, it's saying that um, most of Equatorians that were fighting in Ayo before, under the leadership of Riek Machar, later on come to join Cirilo, the National Salvation Army. And because the National Army is having whatever, they are rebels or something, living residing in the side of Equatoria. So this has resulted Equatoria to be vulnerable, to the government. That's why you see the abuse that is happening. You see the killing of people that is happening. Is just a scourge on Equatorians. Punishing Equatorians for this movement that is residing in the region of Equatoria. So as Hakim has highlighted over there, and you and Dikashi Melo and also CJ has spoken about it. I just wanted to mention one thing that is really like Hakim has mentioned earlier, that about the 2000. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, go ahead. You got 1 minute. Go ahead. And 1 minute extra.
Okay,
Yeah.
about the what do you call it, the refugee, the refugee that has fled into the neighboring country, that has been defined even as the largest African refugee that has migrated since the days of what do you call it, the genocide of Rwanda. This is really so sad. And underneath all these things is happening, Equatoria has never woke up yet. And this is what this report is saying, that Equatorian leaders has never come to their senses of what do you call it, like shepherding their people. This is the time that Equatorian leaders should shepherd their people under their wings, and begin to face what is happening. To wake up and face what is happening. You know, not digging your heads into the sand and pretend like, you know, no, this is not happening, it's okay, it's a civil war. No, this thing is not a civil war, but it's a tribal war that we have been used to join either the left wing or the right wing in order to call it a civil war. You know, because if we all meddle in it, then it will be called a civil war. But without us, this is not a civil war, and this thing is minus us. So I'll just leave it here. I'm sorry for my poor coming in because of the pressure of looking into the time and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Hadassah. Yeah, you put some points correctly, and I agree with you for most of the point. But one thing I wanted to just highlight here, and make sure you time me, so I don't go out of my timing. Starting with this very specific thing earlier, Brother Hakim mentioned, talking about the two regions in the way how they perceive. If I'm not mistaken, I, been listening to everybody, and I'm just trying to get some, things that is missing or some points. But I can go there, and I hope our people who speak Arabic, if they have any issues they can understand, كما بتفهموا باللغة الإنجليزية قول لنا بنقدر نحاول نتكلم باللغة العربية. But what I wanted to say is, in the position that he mentioned, very important critically, it said, let me go back. It says in the turn of the communities, the other communities, when they see Equatorians are calling, calling for like their self-autonomy, and that self-autonomy started with federalism. That thing, the other side or the two regions perceive it unjust call. That's what they're looking at it like that. They call it unjust, and they feel like it's intimidating. It's an intimidating request from Equatoria based on that report. And this surge of the popular demand right now that Equatoria is going to call for, self-rule and all that thing. And I think my brother Hakim had mentioned earlier, it really kind of like put some points. It pinpoints the real demand of Equatoria and what Equatoria sees in that side, and what the other people sees from us, or perceive us as why we are calling for self-determination. Because we're struggling since after the independent, say since 1972, after we had this peace agreement under the Joseph Lagu, God give him long life. Joseph Lagu was a great hero that he has spoken and done all his best with all the other, our respected heroes that we always gonna appreciate them in history, what they did. They spoke clearly that what we need, self-autonomy. And the first even idea of independent, like South Sudan to be independent, was from these Equatorian. And then when they begin to see during that time we're living with the other two regions, and we're seeing the abuse that is happening, and especially came from the side of the Dinka tribe, that's when Equatoria began to call, let's have decentralization, and everybody have to go back to their respective homes so they can develop themselves. And that was a legitimate call. But for them, they don't see it that way. For them, they feel it's wrong. For them, they want it to be everywhere and say this is how we live. But if this is just let me ask this for these guys who believe in that. And this is from the report, because I agree, because that's exactly what we see. But a lot of our people sometimes they're afraid to tackle it. Those guys who live in Upper Nile and Bahr Ghazal, then they ask themselves why Equatorians are not interested to live in your territory? Because Equatorians, if you look at that, I can answer this in my point. Equatorians, they are self-aware of who they are. In their territory, they honor their homeland. Their ancestral land is something valuable more than any mineral, more than any position, more than any gold you give them or oil. They can sell it out to the international community. We don't care about these things. We care about our land, because our land is where our history starts, where our heritage, our life, our ancestors, and we're going to continue building ourselves. I mean, you have seen how many people, when they go other countries, you always be treated as a foreigner. You will never be respected, because you know yourself, you are coming from outside other region. But when you're in your homeland, your fatherland or your motherland, as long as you want, whatever you want to define it, the fatherland that we have is where our ancestors started. So we focus on that we need to protect our heritage and history and the land that we have. See, the conflict that happened between Nuer and Dinka is clear, a power struggle, and it's nothing to be hidden in there and nothing to be interpreted about it's a civil war. It's not a civil war, but apparently, because we some of our Equatorian brothers and sisters joining the conflict caused, engulfed it into becoming or turning into a civil war. But it's still not a civil war, complete civil war, until when Equatoria completely start fighting each other. And that's what they tried to do, because in the report also he mentioned when Cirillo came into defection, or he defected from Salva Kiir regime, because he saw that this is a tyrannical regime. The people who joined Cirillo, most of them defected from the IO, and those are the Equatorians who used to be in IO when they were, given the promise, because IO lied to the Equatorian, promising them that they're going to give them a promise of, most of these, especially the young youth that were recruited by those IO recruiters, because, and the sad thing, the IO recruiters were Equatorians. It were not nowhere. It were Equatorians who were recruiting those Equatorian in the field to go and join the IO so they can get federalism. Imagine, they can get federalism. That's what they want, this is the weakest thing that our leaders, those so-called leaders of ours, failed, because the problem is not about federalism. The point is about the land. That is the real issue. Even though they did not understand it, how to define it, but they thought that federalism would bring, protection or sovereignty for their land, and they failed in that position to explain it to the people, and the people followed. And then during their work with the IO, most of the Equatorian, when they were given all these weapons and uniforms to fight for the side of IO, just to create a chaos to the regime, the Dinka regime, they began to also give a promise, also false promise to the Equatorians, that we're going to promote you as officers, lieutenants. And then even there was a mention of a general. Imagine how IO was so, deceitful, that they brought somebody from the Upper Nile. He's from Nuer group. His name is, I think, John Jock, if I'm not mistaken. John Jock. He was appointed a commander in the Equatoria, and he's the one who was, observing all these Equatorians, controlling them. And during that time, there was a lot of generals in Equatoria who fought with IO, fought beside IO to fight against the regime for the sake of bringing, this regime down, or bring the promise of federalism, so Equatoria can have peace and Dinka can go back into their territories. Unfortunately, those things did not work. And even in that report, it mentioned also that Riek Machar, and we have always said, we always know about this, but this report, it's a clear, detail that what we are saying is support what we say all the time when we come into social media, talk about what is going on. Riek Machar was capitalizing an Equatorian joining him so he can get the upper hand as the only sole opposition power that they can play the role of government, government opponent. And that's why I apologize. I took more time, but if you don't mind, give me 1 minute. So what happened is that he began to feel like he's more powerful, and that's what helped him to get to power. And then when you see the group that was with Cirillo, that joined Cirillo, automatically Riek Machar feared, and most of these people began to attack Cirillo group. And during that time, imagine the worst thing about it, they were Equatorians in IO fighting Equatorians who joined Cirillo. While even he mentioned that Cirillo is not for Equatoria, because Cirillo, when he defected, he did not directly, he spoke about Equatoria, but instead he talked it out. He used the word explicitly. He championed only the nationalism, like the whole South Sudan, And there's a lot of question. I will come back to it, and I will try to kind of focus on that. But this is what I want to say, highlighted here, that this incident caused, that's what kind of like engulfed this now, the understanding that there is a civil war. But what they're doing, they're using Equatorian to fight each other so they can empower themselves, the two groups, the SPLM, which is represent the Dinka, and the IO that represent the Nuer. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Go ahead.
Is it my turn? Yeah. Thank you guys.
I think so. Yeah, it's your turn. Yeah.
ما نتكلم عربي وانجليزي. Okay.
اتكلم بالعربي اللي بيريحك بيكون better, because some people we need to include also our brothers who don't speak English, for that. And for those who speak English, please be patient with us. We're gonna speak English, but just for this moment we want to explain it in Arabic. اتفضل اتكلموا بالعربي.
I will just تابوليت.
No, اتكلم بالعربي احسن شويه عشان تقدر تدي فرصه للباقيين. Thank you.
All right, yeah, let me, okay, good. طيب, what I want to say is just only, first of all, this report seems to be a mirror. You understand, guys? يعني هي كمراية هسي كأضواء. يعني إحنا, what I need is that, let's just pick out some points. We don't need to analyze that or report قاعد يقول شنو وذاك وإحنا أخذنا الملخص. It's all about Equatoria, of course. Our main concern here is what we should concentrate on what have hurt us, what is hurting us in this report, this particular report, rather than going far عشان نعمل critiques بيننا. For instance, there are more many about Srilo here, Arif Cave, which is sometimes, of course, there's no proper evidence that you can say راجل اللي كان بيسعى نحو الصراع بينه وبين بوكسورو. This is also one of the issues, the conflicts. ففي قضايا كثيرة جدا جدا علينا أنه شنو نركز على النقاط الأساسية اللي بيضر what that is concerned Equatoria والخطأ بتاعنا وين and how should we correct it and how should we make it perfect. If we disagree with it about the areas where we disagree with it, please let's get it out of it. Also, we can go for that and analyze it. For instance, مسألة بتاعت الوجه crisis and fragmentations by 2016 and 2018. التناقضات والتفتيت بتاعت المجموعات الموجودة هنا. يعني من بحسب التقارير بيقول أنه كان Equatoria, the mid-2016 Equatoria set on a knife addict. يعني Equatoria وضعوه في ساحة بتاعت شنو؟ بتاعت السكين يعني في المحك. يعني كان Equatoria وضع بتاعه في المحك. تعرف كيف؟
يعني في قلب في قلب السكين يعني هيك something. Yeah.
بقول لك انه mobilization of forces وما شابه ذلك demands recognitions in the shaky peace accord. لأنه شنو طبعا لما حصلت الأحداث وضع بتاعت الاستوائية كانت ضعيفة للغاية. لاحظ في 2016 الناس اللي اتقاسموا السلطة بين النوير والدينكا، والنوير استغلوا الإكواتوريا في كثير من الأحيان. هم they have used to an extent that أنه التقارير بيقول أنه الراجل ده قدر يستفيد من الاستوائيين بتمام الكمال، أنه أخذ اللي هو leadership position. عارف كيف؟ يعني بقى هو opposition in state. كان امبارح هو موالي للحكومة وضد النظام طبعا على أساس قبلي. إكواتوريا وضع الزول ده قال في مكانة مرموقة جدا جدا ألا وهو شنو an opposition leader. يعني imagine this guy was so supposed to be a opposition leader. Well, he was a part of the government. How could it be an opposition? That's the point. إكواتوريا وضع الزول ده في محل ده في مرحبا ده، وده بيعتبر خطأ جسيم جدا جدا أنه إكواتوريا wouldn't have do that. عارف كيف؟ دي الأخطاء اللي أنه بيجي نتعلم منها. بالنسبة للأخ سريلو وبوكوسورو حصل نزاعات كثيرة جدا جدا بل ما يحدوا صفهم. الناس اللي دخلوا في نزاعات أنه منيب يكون قائد وكذا. وبعدين في ثاني مسألة الولاء لشنو؟ للقبلية، القبيلة وما شابه ذلك. حاجات اللي بيعتبروا سخيفة جدا جدا، وهذه حاجات وضع الإكواتوريا في محك ده الوضع الإكواتوريا في وضع ده. لذلك إكواتوريا وضعه كان هنا يعني ما كانت موقع بتاع اللي هو عناصر كان عندهم قضية، وقضية بتاعت إكواتوريا طبعا حسب ذكر الراجل ده زي ما قال ألن أنه المسألة مش it's not a problem of today. المسألة دي بيرجع بعيد جدا جدا زي ما احنا وضحناه هنا لمراحل بتاع شنو decentralization واي الكبرى وما شابه ذلك. فهل إكواتوريا احنا كإكواتوريين we used to learn from mistakes ولا أن we used to use mistakes عشان يرمينا down to throw it down. So Equatoria need to be aware of that. كان في politicians أو to شعب أو if you are holding مثلا موالي لمشهر ولا وين لأي جهة تاني حامل السلاح وتقدر تحارب. So Equatoria need to come to their sense أنه المسألة ليست مسألة أنك تتحالف مع شخص وعندك قضية واضحة جدا جدا كشمش. You have a problem. We have a demand. Our demand is clear. demand بتاعنا هنا عاوزين self autonomy أو الحكم الذاتي بمعنى آخر. عاوزين نظام نقدر نحمي حالنا. الإكواتوري بيقدر يحكم نفسه بنفسه. not أنه واحد يتحايل عليه. فإحنا وضعنا يعني بالذات إكواتوريا، كنت متوقع إكواتوريا في 2015 أنه كلهم يجوا يسايد لاين يقولوا أنه I mean they have to be in one line، يكونوا في اتجاه واحد ويقولوا أنه شنو إحنا بنعارض اتفاقية 2015 أنه يعتمدوها كمثلا اتفاقية بتاعت الوطن بقدر ما هو اتفاقية بتاعت 2 فرد. that means it is اتفاقية بتاعت كيرو مشر which is Upper Nile بحر الغزال which we have no hands on it. It's unfortunate. إكواتوريا ما قدر يفكر بهذا الفكر. لذلك المسألة بيرجع لأنه إكواتوريا التفكير بتاعت إكواتوريا دائما تفكير فردي you know individual thinking. It is not a collective thinking. ده المشكلة اللي قاعدة تدور إكواتوريا في كثير من الأحيان. إحنا بقينا نتبع يعني زي واحد جاء مثلا زول أحمق جاء وقاعد يعمل حاجات كده ما صحيح. ده began to follow him. ده له آثار سلبية جدا جدا بالنسبة لنا. It has an effect. It's a bad effect. You know, it has. You know, ده هنا this will not help us at all. instead بيرمينا تحت. لذلك إكواتوريا يجب أن يكون عنده الوعي الكامل. هذه التقارير جملة وتفصيلا بيتكلم عن ضعف بتاعنا وأنه كيف إحنا ممكن نجيب وعدم وجود القيادة. إحنا بنتشارع في قيادات في مسألة القيادة. القيادة يا أخوانا عملية بسيطة جدا جدا. عارف كيف؟ يعني إحنا يجب أن نتفق عليه، نقعد في طاولة والشعب هي اللي بيقرر من هو القائد، من اللي بيقودنا في الفترة بعدين ممكن نديه زمن معين حتى نمشي عليه. ما يقعد يعيش هناك عشان يقول له دي تاجد ولا تابوه. No. So there are more many things. تقارير قالوا وده كل مصلحة الإكواتوريا. So Equatoria need to have a positions in that particular regime, in this regime today. لأنه this is not a regime. كير هو حول القضية لشنو؟ حول البلد إلى بلد تادينكا instead of بلد بتاع جنوبيين كله عندنا مع القبائل الموجودة. So this is a serious matter. Let us not take it so easy. Let this be a turning point of coming together so that we change our directions, so that we know what is أي Equatorian يجب أن يحفظ you know it has to memorize that أي مبدأ أي demands بتاعنا يجب أن نحفظها على ظهر القلب. عارف كيف؟ عن ظهر القلب يعني بمعنى آخر أنه أي زول بيعرف what do Equatoria need. ونسأل نفسنا قاعد نقول هنا we need self-determinations based on what? On the land. بدون الأرض بتاعنا لو إحنا ما أخذنا أي شبر من أرضنا لا يجب أن نتحاول في مسألة الإكواتوريا. لا يجب أن نتلاعب فيه إطلاقا لأنه تلاعب فيه شنو؟ يعتبر تلاعب مع منو؟ مع القبائل والجنريشن الجاي مع الأجيال الجاية. معناه شنو؟ يعني لاحظ أنه هنا في مختلف دول العالم اليوم في أطفال لو قلت لهم امشي إكواتوريا ما بيمشي أو يمشي جنوب السودان صار جنوب السودان لهب. So our point we should line up and say أنه هؤلاء الناس مش شرعيين. وإحنا فعلا as Equatorial Civil Association we kept on saying that openly that is not a legitimate government. What is there is a deed. تعرف الديد بمعنى آخر لما تشتري بيت بيدوك الديد. So somebody is holding this deed in the state of the people. We are supposed to hold that deed. وثيقة بتاعت شنو؟ مبايعة أو وثيقة يعني بمعنى آخر وثيقة بتاعت الاستقلال. لو في وثيقة ما في اسمه وثيقة استقلال ذاته حتى في الدنيا ما في بشكل ده. طبعا الأوروبيين صنعوها ووضعوها على هذا الأساس وصار الناس إحنا الأفارقة بيجينا نمشي عليه على الوهم. نو الأرض ملك للشنو؟ موروث عن ورثة. أنت لما تورث الأرض إحنا بنورث الأرض. في الدول الأخرى أنت ما ممكن تملك الأرض. تاكسس بيمشي وراك ويشيل بيتك برا. So I have to stop here. I don't have to prolong. فأنا بقول لكم أن شنو؟ هنالك العديد من الأسئلة. We need to answer it. If it is not opened, it should be behind door. Thank you guys. Thank you.
شكرا كثير CJ في توضيحك. It's a great. You highlighted perfectly بطريقة صحيحة. نعم sorry بس add point هنا. نعم فعلا الوثيقة اللي هسه الريبورت ده هو كمراية عشان يخلينا نشوف أخطائنا. See our mistakes, where we made our mistakes and how can we correct it. وزي ما انت قلت احنا فعلا استوائيين، وقاعدين نراقب، قاعدين نشوف حالنا كشنو، ك كفرديين، ان نعمل حاجاتنا فردي اكثر ما بنعمل حاجاتنا جماعيا. والجماعيه بتاعنا دائما لما احنا نوصل في الجماعه، الجماعيه بتاعنا دائما بيكون فوق خلل، لانه كل زول عنده حب للسلطه. وزي ما انت قلت حتى في الريبورت ده ذكر بوكوسورو and سيريلو on these clashes. وبعدين ما بس كده، حتى لحد هسه اليوم احنا قاعدين نصارع في الحاجات ده، لكن خلي العقليه ده ما يكون في وسطنا. احنا لما نخدم او كان ربنا فتح لك الوعي او الروح بتاع الثوره، انت عندك لو كمواطن استوائي وكابن استوائيه لازم تفكر في مصلحه الاستوائيين، حتى لو انت ذات تتزل فوقه، حتى لو انت ذاته ما بيشكروك فوقه، لانه الاهم شيء الجيل الجاي زي ما انت ذكرت. والجيل الجاي ده هم اساس بتاعنا، لانه احنا بنخليهم هنا ورثنا الارض، لكن اليوم احنا قاعدين نخلي الارض بقى يلعبوا فوقنا عشان يشيلوا الارض مننا. احنا ما هنخلي الارض. عشان كده تلقى العالم اليوم الدول العربيه زي اسرائيل وفلسطين ودول ثانيين هم بيساروا من اجل ارضهم. الارض هو كل شيء، ده ما السلطه. عشان كده هؤلاء الناس اللي هسه قاعدين يحكمونا ده، هؤلاء الناس لا ليس ما عندهم لسه الوعي، ما وصلوا للتطور، حلقه التطور عشان يقدروا يتشينج the country. عشان كده رجعوا البلد لعصر الحجري. even worse than that, they began to dominate it based on the tribal يعني الفكره والاسلوب القبلي. فانا ما عاوز اكثر، انا بدي فرصه لبرادر حكيم. حكيم also welcome again at your input on this point. أنا بشكرك كمان for your time, and بشكر everyone who is here for your time, and thank you. Go ahead. تفضل.
Just a moment. I was charging my phone. Let me
No
just get
problem.
it off.
No problem. Take your time. All right.
Just a minute.
You're good. Yeah. So بشكر كل أخواننا اللي بيشوفونا هنا بيشاهدونا وأخواتنا. and I hope يا جماعة لو عندكم فرصة شارك عنده منابر بتاع استوائية، أي منبر استوائي. وأنا بتمنى من هؤلاء الاستوائيين اللي عم بيحاولوا يحجبونا من ال إنه لما post our videos they block it. They don't want us to be put there. That's shameful. احنا قاعدين نتكلم, we're talking about our people. لو انت عندك حب لإيكاتوريا, don't block your brother who's Equatorian who talks about Equatoria. Instead, let them post that video. If you don't agree with them, you can challenge them, but you don't have to block them, because if you block them, that shows you are really intimidated by the truth. لأنه انت ما عندك, you don't stand on the truth. You stand only on lies and propaganda and opportunity for yourself. لكن لو انت for real believe in Equatoria, let every Equatorian حتى لو هو disagree معك post his voice, and then people will judge. وانا قاعد نحزن لما نشوف في Equatorian بقى بيعملوا block او بقى بيحرشوا تانيين انه احنا ما تشير our video because we talk bad about ناس. but الناس ما Equatoria يا جماعه, والناس ما قاعد talk about Equatoria, because I know who's those guys who are talking negative and evil about us, but we don't care because we're gonna fight for our brothers شفتها until we see Equatoria free. وبكره هنشوف هؤلاء الناس اللي بيرفضونا قاعدين نتكلم حقائق ده المدى انك يسمعوا صوتنا. بكره هنشوفهم هيقولوا شنو لما نيجي Equatoria يكون حره, وهم هيكونوا في جهه. هل هم هيكونوا في جهه بتاع في مسؤوليه التاريخ, ولا في جهه بتاع هؤلاء الناس اللي صنعوا التاريخ؟ فانا بدي فرصه لاخوي حكيم. thank you, welcome.
thank you. بس في النقطة دي بالذات أنا عاوز أقول شنو بالنسبة للإخوة الإكواتوريين الأخوات وكل المستمعين. يعني there is something called the right of access to information. It's a fundamental human right, and there's also something called the public's right to know. Okay, these are two fundamental and symbiotic principles. دي مبادئ أساسية في حقوق بتاعت الإنسان, حق المعلومات أو حق الحصول على المعلومات, والحق في عندك ما تكون عندك شنو, تكون عندك معرفة, الحق للمعرفة, especially في القضايا بتاعت المصلحة العامة. So the public's right to access to information, the public's right to know are very fundamental human rights. فإذا كان في أي organization بيحاول يحجب الحقائق وما عاوز الشعب بتاعته يعرف ويقدر يعني مثلا to be informed عشان يقدر يتخذ قرارات صائبة وجدمنت صائب، ده ما بيفيد، ما بيجدي للمستقبل بتاعتنا كاستوائيين، إنما يعني بيشيلنا في اتجاه بتاع الدكتاتوريات. الدكتاتوريات اللي عاوز شنو؟ عاوز تحتكر السلطة وتحتكر المعلومات وتحتكر المعرفة عشان هي شيء، عشان هي تكون يعني تستمر في السلطة. كويس. So most of you Equatorians should always stand with the principle of the public's right to know and the right of access to information. ده حق. لأن الدولة ذاته لما تتكون، الدولة لازم تشنو تراعي الحقوق ده وتكون في يعني مقننة بالقانون. حق الوصول للمعلومات، حق الوصول على المعلومات تكون مقنن بالقانون يعني. اوكي. الشيء النقطة الثانية اللي أنا عاوز أرجع له اللي هي أنه إحنا في نظام يعني فيه يعني this tension between you know the future of the country as a centralized state in which there is a monopoly of power and monopoly of resources, economic resources and wealth on the one hand, and sharing this power and resources with the rest of the country. Like in Hassi, you know, the one that is dominant is the model that, and this is what the report is saying, the model of monopoly of power and resources, which is supported by the current elites في الحكومة، so called حكومة. عشان كده زي ما الأخ إسحاق قال الدولة فاشلة وما حتظل فاشلة، وإحنا لازم شنو نلقى لنا حصول، نحاول يعني نشوف المستقبل بتاعتنا يعني إحنا المستقبل بتاعتنا هيكون شنو يعني. Okay. The other thing which I wanted also to briefly come back to قضية بتاعت أنه فعلا يعني في ضعف وفي قصور. الأخ سي جي also قال الكلام ده، قصور في أنه إحنا الفئات السياسية أو ما بيسمى بالإليتس، كويس، والموفمنتس اللي تكونت بقيادات استوائية هي فشلت في أنها مثلا تضع شنو؟ تضع يعني أساس وتحالف مثلا يصب في اتجاه بتاعت حقوق بتاعت الاستوائيين وبصورة يعني قوية وكده. So this is something that we need to reverse. How do we go about it? So I think most of us should go back and think about these issues which are raised in the account of this report عشان احنا نقدر نشوف ما هو تصور للمستقبل هيكون في شنو. And there are things going on. For example, today we have this platform which is an attempt to rally Equatorians together, to come together, to think and work together as a people عشان احنا نمشي لقدام. And you can see that, and I said this yesterday, that Equatoria People's Alliance and Equatoria Civic Association Council are members of the alliance. They're working together to prove the model to Equatorians. لكن هسي تشوفوا في Equatorians ثانيين ما بيرضوا فكرة بتاعت انه يجي يقعدوا معنا سوا عشان نشتغل كلنا سوا. They want to do their own things, and this is one of the one of the findings of this report. And احنا دائما يعني we don't want to prove that we can work together for a common objective. So and maybe we'll prove ourselves wrong if we start to change this strategy, if we realize that this is not actually really supporting our interests. الشيء الثاني very interesting من الريبورت ده اللي هو قضية بتاعت أنه Equatorians, the political or opposition groups, they haven't really made an effort to try to turn the intense popular discontent in Equatoria into a cohesive energy for change. كويس. يعني there is a strong discontent in Equatoria. There is a strong discontent in terms of our population. Our population is very discontented, and we need to turn that discontent into a positive energy. So how do we do that? By doing the right things, coming together and working together as Equatorians. And I think this is, an aspect that we should continue to explore and provide guides, provide the implications of this report as a guide to us in how we are approaching this. وده بيطلب انه احنا شنو؟ يعني we apply الفكر المعرفة، نعمل بشكل فكري بشكل علمي موضوعي عشان شنو؟ عشان احنا نقدر شنو؟ نقدر يعني نتحد في الاسلوب والاستراتيجيات اللي احنا ممكن نقدر نمشي بيها لقدام. And one other very interesting thing is this, and I thought to highlight this as well in the report. Okay, بيقول انه شنو that دائما بتلقى انه dinka elites and other elites. Okay, لاحظ يعني شوف الكلام ده بيقول انه dinka elites and other elites continue to assert that the Kokora is the justification for suppressing Equatorial interests. شفتها؟
Wow.
يعني, when we call for shared sovereignty, federation, confederation, and so on, then the Kokora is used as a shield against Equatorial interests. يعني بقدر ما انت مثلا عاوز تتكلم عن حقوق بتاعت الاستوائية طوالي they will jump to Kokora. كويس؟ معلش ممكن تقول the Dinka elites. They do that, they have done that in history, and they're just recycling the history. Okay? Maybe the Nuers also have the same sentiment because of propaganda. And they are interested in particular for, preserving their share of the cake. Okay? لكن خليك الأضحك من كده أنه تلقى أنه برضو there are these other elites. Who are they? You ask your question. Apart from the Dinka, apart from the Nuers, okay, who may be prejudiced against Equatorians' interests because of Kokora. But there are also others, who want to use Kokora as a justification. So it's not like it's the only the Dinkas and the Nuers are using this excuse. There are others who use this excuse as well. So I think Equatorians should pay attention to that. And you can almost detect that even today when you look in the social media. كويس؟ انت بتلقى انه في ناس بيعارضوا وبيقفوا ضد Equatorians calling for regional autonomy and so on, including our own Equatorians. كويس؟ which is quite interesting. So these Equatorians who are against us calling for self-determination, for example, they're very scared for no reason, and they become sometimes they become very emotional, and we don't want to see that. We should not fear each other as Equatorians. What's important is that we can discuss these things, even including in public. Okay, عشان to persuade ourselves we're not enemies. So I just want to appeal to those Equatorians to not be afraid. Please come to Equatoria dialogue في الحوار الاستوائي الجاري. الناس بتقدر تشارك وتشارك في الأفكار وما تتخوف يعني. People should not also fear to change their position in terms of supporting the agenda for Equatoria. But it's very interesting that we need to have an honest, open, and transparent discussion, including with those who are opposed to Equatorial demands and interests, which are highlighted in this report. The only safest way for us to avoid conflict is if we sit down and do things peacefully and accept the demands of others, because they have a legitimate reason why they're raising these demands. We shouldn't just follow a straitjacket and dismiss the demands, the interests of the people of Equatoria to exercise political power and to govern themselves if that's what they want, because those rights belong to them. We can't just be lumped together and then we suffer consequences in terms of violations of our rights, human rights, and people's rights, and so on. So that's just very quickly what I wanted to say about some of the aspects of the report. But I think it's also very interesting to, for example, note that the demands for this change in the system of governance in the country for the future of the country, if there is ever going to be a chance for the country to survive as a union of equals, then we have to sit down as
I think the time went off, but we can give you like a minute or two to finish.
Yeah, I think I just finished. I actually exhausted the 3 points that I wanted to say. So I'll stop here and I yield the floor to someone else.
You can go on finishing what you're saying, like in a minute or
Yeah, go ahead. You got an extra minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue.
Yes. Yeah. I think I actually did finish my point,
Okay.
but what I was just trying to perhaps also highlight is that there's an important aspect that we kind of like collectively feel that we're politically homeless, and that's what the report also says, that Equatorians are politically homeless, right? They take refuge in IO, they take refuge in Kir's corrupt government, and they are not respected. They are not also exercising political power, because the cake has been shared between these two communities, and Equatoria, without exercising political power. So that's really the reality. There are different ways how this is communicated in the report, but what's important here is that we're just downloading this information to you, the viewers who have not had a chance to read this report, so that you can take some messages, and then on your own you can go on and read the report, and then make an informed opinion about what's in the report. So thank you again for giving me the chance to share my views.
Thank you, Brother Hakim. I think it's Hadassatan or Equator, but yeah, you put it well. This thing is really heartbreaking that Equatorians are in the position of being politically barren, where they cannot even have any asserted position in the political arena, nor even in the country itself. And that's why we are proud, and we're going to stand in our word that we are for separation for the sake of our people and land. We are not here for position. We're not interested for any political position, even though if they are offered, and we know that there is no one can take over a chance, yes, we must have to take whatever it takes to save our people, because we want to build a bridge that our people can continue walking upon, instead of them walking, trying, to cross the river without anything they have, only just by their bodies, and then they will drown in that conundrum that now is in the country. So yeah, I'll give chance to Hadassah, or if you want to yield it to Diketemelo too, it's okay. But you put your input.
I was wondering, since you said we're going for 2 hours and we are
Yes, almost.
Are we getting into?
See, I have echo. I hear echo, please. I hear echo. Hello?
Yeah. Are we
Yeah,
getting into a conclusion of 7 minutes or?
Okay, we can do that. Yeah, but so because we want to give everybody go. Go
Could you
ahead.
please?
Tafadhal.
No.
Yes.
You know, I do have some questions. You know, I would like to answer them. Well,
So then
you know,
let's conclude it in a few minutes,
later.
and then from there
Yeah,
you
go
can
ahead.
ask, because then we have to just to make sure that this is our analysis here. If you don't mind, whoever wanted to stay, we can stay up for a minute. I know we said 2 hours and then we're done, but we can finish this because we want to make sure the 2 hours is been covered up. That's why I wanted to focus on the analysis, and then from there you can ask any question you want.
Is it over?
I know somebody else called me.
2
He
hours is
wanted,
over?
brother
Oh.
Iko wanted to talk. I'll go later, and I'll give you a chance. Tfaddal, then make it just like whatever 2 minutes if you want. If you have anything to add on what Brother Hakim said, or CJ, or any one of you guys, so go ahead. Thank you.
Well done. Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to stress some points here that that this report, which is written by Alan, and also the outsiders who have been observing what is happening in the country South Sudan. This has been witnessed by even the refugee aid workers who are working at the borders, the border officials, and they watch this ethnic cleansing that is happening in South Sudan, especially they described it that, this is really the highest, the highest of abuse, the highest of ethnic cleansing that is happening, that the regime is doing in South Sudan, and in particularly they're describing it that this is what they're doing in Equatoria, and this is a deliberate thing that, just to cleanse the ethnical people who are living in the side of Equatoria, and meanwhile for us this thing is happening to us, and then if you look at it, some people from outside, our neighbors, are looking into it, viewing it with really sadness and horror. But in our side as Equatorians, we didn't see it that way. We don't see it that way. I don't know why really we don't see it that way. And yet we always holding funerals, bika, and always, like, if you speak to the next person, they will tell you like, Yadeke, this news from back there is always just sad news, funeral, somebody died, sadness and stuff like that. And we just downplaying it, as well as, like, the international communities and IGAD and the UN and everybody has just really downplayed, the situations that is taking place in Equatoria, as if we're just a guest, or we're just the elephant in the room, that not really, we don't matter, we don't exist, And I don't know whether this is out of fear or something that we joined into to downplay our situation, instead of we should stand up and say that, hey, let's come together. Let's look at this. We should be the one writing this kind of reports. We should be the one voicing this kind of opinion, But instead, we have divided ourselves among, ranks in different movements, or the regime, or either the IO, or either now the new Salvation Front movement. So, and then everybody's saying like, we're here to fight for Equatorians. We're here to fight for Equatorians. We're in National Salvation Front to fight for Equatorians. But the question that we'll ask itself is like, how do you fight for Equatorian in a platform that is not designed for Equatoria? And this is what the report is actually saying. How can you fight for Equatoria in a platform which is not built for Equatoria, and it does not tolerate Equatoria? And we see it during the representation of the peace agreement, whereby even those of IGAD were there. Equatoria was denied, access to talk about themselves, to present their case, what is happening, So, and we know that by doing this, this denial of, like, the whole three region is not represented properly, equally, this is just creating a vacuum of a future problem to happen, that is not really putting an end to this war that is happening there, which is a trouble war, but it's just creating a bigger platform, for a mess to keep going on like this. And in the middle of it, we are the one losing big time, really. We're losing our homes, we're losing our people, we have no future, and to the level that we're not even recognized at all, If you look at it, when the problem of South Sudan is being addressed, you just hear the two tribes, the two major tribes, the dominant tribes, and then they begin to be seen as the biggest tribe in South Sudan, as the biggest tribe, the Dinka, and then followed by the Nuer, and then people start lining themselves up. Then they'll say that the next the Shuluk or something like that, whereby we who existed as a region, the biggest part of South Sudan, has been neglected. We, the majority, has been neglected because we have allowed this to happen to us deliberately. Because we decided instead of standing for ourselves, we're still gonna fight for Nuer first against the Dinka, or we're gonna join the Dinka regime, which is with Kir, because I want a position. And we have seen our brothers nowadays coming out crazy, madly saying that I am not promoted. I should have been promoted instead of Munu, the Nuer person that is promoted, has been promoted. This was my place. And we see Equatorians killing each other, being employed by the regime down there. Go and kill your fellow people, as far as in the what do you call it, in East Africa. They're doing that all for self gain. So why have we become a lost cause? How did we lose our direction? How did we lose even our meaning? As Equatorians. I still feel like, even though we fall in a very fragile time or fragile situation, I still feel like we still have a window, that we can come in very powerful. We can unite ourselves so powerful. It's like when we speak of unity, it does not mean that we don't have a unity. Like people misunderstanding the word unity really greatly. You know, when we talk about the unity, we're saying that we should unite our idea. We should remove our brains. We should remove our mind, unlocking our brains, remove our power and our own contribution that we're giving other people. We give our contribution over there to work against us. We give our contribution to our enemies to kill us, to dominate us, to occupy our region, to put us to be homeless, whether politically homeless or whether even in practical we're even homeless. Physically we're homeless. You got these people, who are the greater amount of people that are refugees outside, who are Equatorians. So what do we have now as a people of Equatoria, as a people who were once a nation? What do we have? A people that had fought greater battles before, during the days of the ancient, whether during the days even of the movement that was in the bush. So what do we have at the end? We have exhausted ourselves and our energy after other people. All the time we're putting our energy picturing other people's future. Let's sort out these people's future first. Let's sort out these people's future first. And then from there we can see, from after we get the spoil, and after they got enough, they are fed enough, then from there we can come and get, we can collect the remains of the bones for us. And yet these treasures that we are helping them to get, they're getting it in our land and from our land, when we can go in and get it for ourselves. We can go in and fight for ourselves. These positions that we wanted people to appoint us, we don't need Salva Kiir to appoint us. We don't need Riek Machar to appoint us. We don't need their petty guns or their petty power. We can create something of our own, because it's ours. Equatoria is ours. It's not theirs. So this is what I want to say, that instead of we seeing ourselves, in other people's like parties and other people's view, let's see ourselves from our own view. What do we want? How do we want to govern ourselves? How do we want to be respected? And we can do this if we only accept, and if we only stop being a stumbling block to ourselves, whereby when one person is saying this, the other one is saying that one, So let's stop being a mediocre or jokes, that, everybody just running up because I want to be seen, that, tomorrow I want to be in the history, or I want to be this, or I want to be a leader and stuff like that. Let's work together collectively and take this situation that is happening. And we cannot, there's no way we can boycott this without coming together and giving out, render ideas like this and do this properly and once and for all. There's no boycott in this. There's no way a shortcut that you can just run up and pick a gun and start shooting somebody, or started, fighting, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a good strategy and you don't have a good plan in place, you can only end up winding yourself in the same situation that, and the two tribal people are doing. We will end up just fighting, these two tribes forever, because you will have a situation whereby, the fighting is just having no end. You're defending yourself, they're coming, and then again, they have to, it's just something that's going to be an ending fight. So Haja Lana bas bikalim shunu, it's like we have to come together collectively. We have to neglect the other places that where we have rooted ourselves in it. So I will just leave it here and let the next person come.
All right, Dr. Miller, go ahead. Your final input, and then from there, go ahead. Hello.
Okay, yeah, hello, thank you
Yes.
once again for giving me the chance. Yeah, the other point, the point I would like to elaborate on it a bit is, I'm just talking about we Equatorians, the way we are just like alone. We're just alone in a place where we could not see even a corner where we can like support ourselves. And what I want to talk about it is in regards of diplomacy. When we see ourselves Equatorians just alone like this, and when you look at the regional government, you can see the way the governments are operating. And everybody is looking at the interest that is right now in front of them. And and they decide like to ignore Equatoria, where most of their organizations and their companies and their businesses are functioning in a safer place, where they sleep and they wake up, at least they are not shot, because they have tried this all Upper Nile areas. They have tried different areas in Upper Nile and they could not even have peace of mind. But when they come to Equatoria, at least they have peace, those international community. So when we ask ourselves, why are we not getting the support? It will all round up in one thing. We need to come as Equatoria, as Equatorians, with one force that we can defend ourselves, so that we can attract other countries to know our problem. But when we keep ourselves being divided among these two tribal warlords, nobody would want to support us. If we look at Uganda, if we look at Kenya, if we look at other African countries, even Horn of Africa, if we look at Djibouti, we have all these Equatorians who are very well educated. Some of them also, like before, have been diplomats since the time of Sudan. Why can't we not gather ourselves together and then we start also working on our diplomacy, supporting, so that we can at least get 2 or 3 countries that can also support us? Because if I'm to talk about East African community, already we have already someone from the government that is representing the Dinka government within the EAC. So the whole office in the East African community is focusing on the interests of Dinka within the East African community. So if we talk about Museveni, with the chaos he created in 2013, I think, yeah, when Ugandans involved themselves with fighting. Is it 2013? You can correct me, or 2016, where Ugandans fought there. So now in their thinking, behind their mind, when they think like, if we come to our senses and start supporting Equatorians, what will happen with the calamities they created during that fight within Equatorial region? They also fear to themselves. So they will prefer to support the Dinka government to the end, because at least they feel safer than to bring somebody who they never know if that person is going to revenge on the atrocities and the support that they are giving the government and what else they created. So let's just look at this situation we are left in, where you find yourself if we don't like work hard with our Equatorian elites, those who are all like having also connection on their own, even those who are working within the UN as international staff, they should not keep quiet. Sometimes they know connections that at least can make a way for Equatorians to reach those people in talking. Because if it is IGAD, even yearly when they do the head of state meeting, it's just for the presidents that are members of the IGAD. And then there you will not just be allowed like an Equatorian to come and present your case, except if there is chaos like the last time when they brought those of RIAC, and again after some time they came and brought those people for the NAS and Shunu to declare that they are for war and they are going to keep the rules. But now it is not going to be easy for us. So at least what I'm just looking into, our Equatorians elite need to know that we need also to look for a diplomacy side of it. And then again, powers, like we have to look for support that can make us strong to defend our land and ourselves as people of Equatoria. Because I don't know, my time is still there or it's finished. Let me just not speak.
Please, I thought you said that
It's finished.
each on, yeah, it was finished a long time ago.
Okay, so I can stop here, yeah?
If you got like, I'll give you like just 1 minute to finalize. No problem.
Oh.
You just said what is here. I think
Okay,
your
thank
word.
you.
Finish your word.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me
So we
just
can
finish
give it
the
to
last
CJ.
one. Yeah. So I just want Equatorians to know that we are dealing with an enemy that I don't know how their thinking is, by putting the point of like they want to dominate and also chase us away from our own land. So it will reach a point before we decide for something bigger. Let's start from small. Let's start to defend ourselves. Even if like the churches, they sometimes attack the churches, we need also to know how when people are praying, how our youth can protect and defend while others are praying inside the church, because it is no longer safer for some areas even to have worship or gatherings. So this is what I will just say. We have to think of it and really become serious about the Equatoria issue. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ. Okay.
For you, sorry, I have a question for you before CJ comes in.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know exactly, should I be timing 2 minutes on it, or we still going back today? Because you said
No. Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes supposed to. Yeah, 2 minutes because we need to finalize, and then if we go, because we have to make it 2 hours for this one, and then if we got to go to another one, we can make it in just create a new show that is going to be talking about something else, because I know CJ said he has questions, so we might have to leave it. It can take an hour, but we have to finalize this.
Let me just say this. What I want to say is, like, let's just make it clear. Like, for example, if we're finishing this and we say like we're doing 2 minutes, and then there's 2 minutes before we go.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
We go to CJ's. We have to have gaps before we go into the questions.
Yes,
so
yes, we can do that.
What timing is here? What timing is there? So yeah, it can be clear.
All right, just understand me, guys. Clear. So apologize again. One thing I wanted to say here, that yes, we finished our analysis for tonight, but what we're going to do is, like, because CJ said has some questions, he put it there, and I think it's the same about the analysis about this report. But what we're going to do, we have to finalize now for the 2 hours that we have promised to do, maximum. But we kind of gone far because I think we made some, technical mistakes. Anyway, well, just apologize. It's my side. So what I want to do now, give CJ and Hakeem to put their final input, and then from there later, we have to end this live and then create another live, only if it's going to be an hour, just to be the questions, only the questions, nothing else. I know brother Ayuko wanted to say something. Maybe I can bring him there. I can bring him in the second one, but that one will be separate from this side, if you don't mind.
Even Fortunato also requested for the link. I don't know.
I mean, he wanted the link for the report. The report. Yes, I will give. We will discuss it later with him. So at this moment, I just wanted to give Mr. Hakim and Mr. CJ to finalize the input, and then from there we can end this, and then we can talk. We go create a new life that's going to be only on the answer of the questions, and if anyone want to join, then we give him a chance. Thank you.
Hello, can I get it?
Yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead, and then I'll give the Hakim.
Thank you. Thank you, Yom.
So I'll give you guys, if you don't mind, 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That's it. That'll be better.
Yeah, indeed.
So that way you can,
and
for all of you
Didi
guys.
and the rest.
Because I'm not. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for the chance again. Yeah, indeed. As says, I sent you a few minutes ago. That we need to defend ourselves. Definitely, there's no doubt on that. Yet, as you can see, we are scattered. We're not yet together. It looks like as long as there are people in IO, some are with the government and all that, that really, it's weaken our position much more. But does it mean that we have to give up? No, we will not. We'll continue. Because there's time always, until the others got persuaded, then they will come in. Yeah, as far as, I just wanted to interject to what Hakim have said a few minutes ago. Based on my point was that, the reports and whether or not, we need to go for it in details and all that. And mainly what I wanted to say is that, if we're talking about a book, somebody who have written a book, we're not going to sum it up. We're not going to define any points on it, rather than encouraging people to go and look into it. So these reports was, as far as the right of people to know and, whatever comes up and all that, yeah, indeed, sure, I agree with you. But there are some areas, this report, if you could look at it and its finding, it comes from the Equatorians. Mainly it came from the Equatorians because the guy had told us clearly he has been to numerous places, Congo, Kenya, Uganda, and all those internally, with exception of, he has never been to US, most probably, could be, else maybe you may say UK. So it is there. It is from their mouths. So we're in communication with our people. We know what they are talking about. So that's simply without hard feeling. I'm trying to tell you that, you might have known clearly there's some areas that we don't have to get into because it may create some complex between us. For instance, talking about an ethnic Mundari or barrier, that we shouldn't, or Totuko, Moro, and Kira, this shouldn't be our issue, of course, despite that fact that, this guy has mentioned it. So, well, am I good?
Yeah, go ahead, speak.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, when it comes to my point, actually, what is going on in South Sudan is an accumulation of some mistakes that we have created as Equatorians, and that we should be careful, and we should always learn from it, and look forward. We don't have to repeatedly, come after it and use it again and again, where we will be losers. We will be the losers at the same time. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity that you have given us. I don't have to go far. Then I know I do have some questions here. I'll be more than happy to look for the times when you give us a chance for the questions. And I'll end it here. Thank you. I'll give you the mic back. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think CJ
well,
finished.
I say it's up done,
Yes, I know. You made 2 minutes.
Say
Go ahead.
2 minutes, is it right? Isn't
yeah,
it?
you're done. Yeah, you're done.
Did I finish my 2 minutes?
Yes, you did.
Oh, thank you then. That's all.
Yeah, you did your 2 minutes. You did it perfectly.
Yeah,
3 minutes.
Thank you, CJ.
Yeah.
I just want to build on the remarks of our sister about Equatorians coming together, and how we can then address these issues of relating to the international community, reaching out to engage in areas that would promote the interests of Equatoria. I think that work is already in progress. This is exactly what we're doing here. That's why we're working together. As you'll probably remember, and I think I want to take this opportunity to remind all Equatorians that last year we started Equatoria to Equatoria dialogue. It's called الحوار الاستوائي. And we addressed many issues. And many of these issues that we are now reflecting and commenting upon in the report were also the same issues that Equatorians expressed during those discussions, which extended for over 4 or 5 months, starting in April, just at the onset of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, and it went on until August. These were just discussions, talks, honestly, openly, and transparently. And like I always say, and I want to reiterate here, in those discussions, the framework for the dialogue was, where are we today as Equatorians? Why are we fragmented? We look at our current situation, which is also now reflected in this report. And then we said, what is the way forward? What is the way forward? And we also defined the way forward. And then we decided also to say, okay, how are we going to go to from this current position to the vision of Equatoria that we want to be in? And we have to come with a plan. If you want to go from, New York to Washington, you have a vision that you want to get to Washington, but you are now in New York. And so for you to go to Washington, you either have to fly, you either have to maybe take a train, or you want to maybe walk, right? So these are all the options that you have. You choose depending on your resources. So what we chose to do was to form an organization to bring Equatorians together. It's called Equatoria People's Alliance. But before we formed the Equatoria People's Alliance, and because of this participation of Equatorians, over 400 Equatorians in total participated in those discussions. And we came up with a declaration called Equatoria People's Declaration and Charter of Rights, in which every Equatorian will see themselves. We expressed and declared the right to self-determination and various other rights. They are in their website. We can give you the link to Equatoria People's Alliance, and you can read there on the websites what are those rights, what's that Declaration and Charter of Rights. And then we formed the EPA based on those rights, because if you make a declaration of rights that belong to Equatorians, you must then work to realize those rights for Equatorians to enjoy those rights. And that means you have to organize yourselves. You become the vehicle in some way or another to move this process forward. And so we formed EPA. And Equatoria People's Alliance is open to all Equatorians who believe in the Declaration and Charter of Rights. And then we said we come together so that we can work together, like what we're doing now with Equatoria Civil Association Council. We're working together. We're thinking together. We're planning together. And that's the idea. The idea is that we come together as Equatorians so that we can begin to plan, to think of what we want to do for the future of Equatoria. And I appeal to all of you to visit Equatoria People's Alliance website. Some of you may have the links, and also want to focus on the side of fundraising, resources. Because we can't operate as an organization effectively to do all of these things that we want to do without resources. So it's very important to focus on those. So I won't spend a lot more time on the subject right now, but please reach out and also consult among your colleagues, your friends, find out those people who may help you find out where Equatoria People's website is, Equatoria People's Alliance website is. And we also have Equatoria Broadcasting Corporation, which is our platform for also, advocating for the interests of the people of Equatoria. So thank you very much again for giving me the opportunity to share on this platform. And may God bless you all, and stay well. God bless you. Thank you.
Hello? You hear me, guys?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Hakim. Thank you, Brother CJ, Hadassah, and Dikete Mello, and all the audience who are watching us. I just want to say this is the analysis to be finalized. This first part of the report, and the second part is going to be we will talk with Brother Hakim and our sisters to know when is the best time for us to come up and talk about it, either Friday tomorrow or Sunday, but we will talk about it. I mean, Friday or Saturday, sorry. So, and then from there, from part two, I mean, this second episode of this report, we go to the next last and final report, because I have some things even I wanted to mention here, which is very important and critical in the heart of the report that mention. I think most of us have kind of like put it in a brief about those of the Equatorian militia who is in Equatoria. And if you look at the report, there is indirect question to these militia in Equatoria. Do they represent Equatoria, or do they represent other interests, or are they being manipulated by other political powers or politicians or organizations that can make them only fight, but there is no any victory, or there is no any solution? Because even there is something very important he mentioned, that Equatorial interest is not represented in anything when it comes to that fight that is going on in Equatoria right now. All we see Equatoria are being displaced. So my thanks to all those who are watching us and those who have shared the video. And I say this to our brothers and sisters who don't like us. And I will say it because I know not everybody will like you, but those who don't like us, those who see us as, who are we to come and speak like this? Yes, we don't have any names. We don't come from a prestigious family, or we don't come from where. But it's not about who are we. We represent the people who are down there. The same person that you say, who are you? I am the same person that belong to that places where the camps are. Those who are migrate, those who have been pushed from their homes, those who want to go back to their houses. This is me. This is all of us here in this forum. We speak in their voices. We speak in their behalf. We're not here for position. We're not here for glory or for names, as some people would love to be put their name in the highest list of the greatest. But we don't care about the greatest, because the only greatest is God, the living God that have given us life, and the land that our ancestors left it for us, and even our ancestors who left the world after they built everything for us, so we can continue inheriting it and give it to the next generation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of disappointment happen, and because some people will always try to come up and say they are, or I am. When we see all the time they do the wrong things in front of us. Even this report is a highlight, and is a voice to us. It does not mean that because we talk about this report, khalas na gonna follow khawajat, like how some people wanted to say, oh, to continue. No, because we don't. But what we're trying to talk about this report is that someone have acknowledged and have noticed that our suffering. He began to give an enlightenment to the rest of the world that you guys need to pay attention to the thing that you're not paying attention to. And these people that you don't pay attention to, they are the main power of this nation, or they are the main heart of what is called South Sudan. That's why we Equatorians, when we call for our independence today, it's not because we hate, but because we found that there is no other hope. If the outside do not want to speak in our behalf, they don't want even to bring us in the table to bring the solution, and they don't want to acknowledge what was going on, then we Equatorians have the right. It doesn't matter if Uganda want it, if Kenya wants it, if Troika or IGAD want it, we, the people of Equatoria, will make it happen. Let us have heart like Palestinians, like the Israelis when they fought for their land. They did not wait and so the other people can acknowledge them. Those who acknowledge them, they say thank you, and we appreciate your sincerity and love for us, and we'll never forget you. But those who don't acknowledge us, we're going to stand against them until we get our land, because I want them to remember that we have family, we have ancestors, we have a background. Our ancient fathers and mothers have gave us this country. and we have to protect it with our life and blood and our soul. Today, this land has been taken so easily by a nomadic tribe who try to come up and invade our land, chase our people, and then they want to also exploit our land and exploit our people in another way. So our future as Equatorian became a monopoly in the hand of these tribal regime. If it be in IO or SPLM, because they're both tribal organizations who are now playing to be the dominant power, and they are now trying to say the opposition and regime, but they are not opposition. They are the same bird from the same feathers, as they say. So what I want to ask my brothers and sisters who are here, let us continue fighting for our right. We're gonna come back again after this live, because the next one is going to be only questions that brother CJ had said. CJ want to put questions to everyone, and I don't know. I would love to look if brother Hakim will join us back in the second one, or sister Diketumelo also. I know Hadassah, her time is different. My time is also different, and I would love you guys to come in and join us at the next one. And I want to give my message to those brothers and sisters, like I said, those who hate, to wake up and stop, being that, jealous, naive, and hateful. When we put our voices out there, if you don't agree with me, come and challenge me. We respect your voice, because if you're an Equatorian, you really son of Equatoria and daughter of Equatoria, you don't have to feel intimidated by not allowing me to share my voice to the people. But you guys want to promote yourself in a propaganda and all these. This is disgusting. It makes me feel like you guys just want to be in power, and you guys show you really love power. That's why you don't want anybody to challenge your words. You love to be in the spotlight more than tell the truth. We want you to speak the truth and speak the truth to the people. Like this, even this report had been published for almost a month and a half, if I'm not mistaken. And yet none of these guys who talk all the time, they have been promoting themselves. They've been 6 years in Facebook or whatever, 10 years in Facebook. They cannot even talk about this thing because they're afraid, because it criminalizes some of the wrong that happened. Even it denounces some characters in Equatoria who have done wrong and failed. Even it shows that Dinka and Nuer conspiracy is going on against Equatoria, and even the two other regions, not just Dinka and Nuer, because the other regions are not even, they don't even want to fathom the idea that why Equatoria are calling for federalism, even up to the point now we are calling for independence, because we see our land matters more than anything else. We don't care about politics. We don't care about the power. But if you guys think power is going to be playing to manipulate us and to play monopoly on us, that's when we're going to stand against it. So for those who naively believe that they have to say the good word or the sweet talk just to get position, and they will reject what we say, time will tell. Like I say, time will tell, because one day history will record what you have done to us and what we're doing. And we're coming here with a sincere heart. And God of Israel knows if we are in the bad side, He will not even get us to that level to get Equatoria to rise up to its position of being a nation. But if we are in the right side, like I said, you will not stop us. But if we're in the wrong side, yes, God will stop us. So for you guys who pretend you know God better, you need to really ask your hearts. Envy is not the way how we go forward. Individuality is not the way how we go forward. Equatoria is everything to us, because this is our identity. And I'm proud to be an Equatorian. And I'm proud that my brothers and sisters who are with me today, who are listening and speaking and writing, even participating, I'm really proud of you. Equatoria will rise. It's not the majority that make a difference, it's the few that makes a difference. I remember even in the Marine slogan, they say, the few, the proud, because they're the one who are going to be first, making the difference. But I went to the military in US Army, but it's okay. In that thing also, we know that even you're few, you're mighty. It's not about the numbers. It's about the real objective and the power that you can make. So I thank you so much. And I'll give this thanks to everyone. We will come back again and give me like 10 minutes. We will be back if you don't mind. And then we'll be back here in this live forum. But this time will be only questions and interaction with Mr. CJ, because CJ had questions. And then from there also, we can give open the link for everyone. All right. So people who want to come and participate and ask, put their input or ask questions, we will get them. Brother Aiko, I know you tried to get in. I'll give you the link later. Please join me through the link. So because I want to leave here from my place so I can go home. All right. Bye. Thank you to everyone, guys. Thank you so much.
GOE Records. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na, yeah. Banana kala. Na 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 na. Anina wahi. Anina sawa. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Nasawa. Anina Equatoria. Beled wahid. Anina Equatoria. Anehna. Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah, kanita miniambio, kanita mintori, weleta minjuba, yeah. Anena Equatoria, keresia samagesi manena. Yeah. We strong, we stand together. Yeah. Kanihna gulu wahi, Equatoria biraba. Yalpilwa pijama, asan belet na biraba. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah. Give us ipanabule. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Nasawa, Anina Equatoria. Beled wahid, Anina Equatoria. Anehna, Anina Equatoria. Oh yeah, kanita zande, kanita mai, au kukuye, Anina Equatoria. Kelele na hibonyo fusina, kebilia kede maferiganina. Salam wa sakhava, behaja derino, hasan belet na biraba, arif ma bisaido. So give us pen, don't give us guns. Oh yeah. Give us ipanabule. Oh yeah. Anina Equatoria. Nasawa, Anina Equatoria. Beled wahid, Anina Equatoria. Anehna, Anina Equatoria.
Nihna kulu sawa jama. So my Fanan Ngala. I love my people and I'm the voice.
Acholi ya buka ya baka, Equatoria balanda mare, kakuwa kiliko, lambo lugoya,
Acholi
kuposa mundo, nyanga morobe mare, mundare, nyanga, otumo mare makotudo, lugara buka ya lobe.
Koposa Mundo Anakulu nasi sawa Mavi hata vigesi manena Siasa mavigesi manena Anina wahi
Alright, شكرا لكم جزيلا أيها الإخوة والأخوات. بعد قليل يمكن بعد 10 دقائق سنعود إليكم بالعربي الفصحى. هنرجع لكم بعدين. You know, in 10 minutes هيكون 1 hour just on question Q&A, you know, أسئلة وأجوبة في هذا. فعشان كده فأرجوكم share this video on this report, and إحنا إن شاء الله post the report on our page free forum, and also you know our brother Hakim EBC also, he will post it there, so that way both of us will be able to share it to our brothers sisters. وإن شاء الله لو لقينا طريقة بنحاول نفتش ترجمة له، لكن طبعا هو باللغة الإنجليزية, it's in English. I will try to find a way how to translate it into Arabic. All right, so thank you so much. تابعونا بعد شوية. In 10 minutes we'll be back. I hope you guys share it with us, and God bless and have a blessed day. Thank you.